This is the Pentax Auto 110, a camera that was produced from 1978 until the mid-1980s. This particular camera belonged to my grandpa. In his lifetime, he went from using a huge Graflex to a tiny little camera like this, which is pretty wild when you think about it. All the lenses have f2.8 apertures. There's a iris inside the body, so you could stop down lower than f2.8, but I'm actually not going to be shooting with this camera today. Instead, I'm going to use this adapter to attach the lenses to my Fuji X-T3. I have the 18mm, 24mm, and 50mm lenses. All the lenses are f2.8 all the time, so it'll be a very narrow depth of field. All three have pretty good center sharpness, but when you get to the corners, things get a little murky. The 24mm lens is so small that while you're focusing it, it can be pretty challenging not to get your finger in the frame. Shooting these tiny vintage lenses on a modern digital camera makes for some very lo-fi images, and I'm here for it. Plus, I was able to fit all three lenses and my digital camera in my pocket, so I didn't need a backpack or a sling, which is rad. Let's get started with the 18mm. I started out shooting at a vacant school near my girlfriend's house. You can see that vignetting is pretty prominent on this lens. It's fairly easy to edit out if you want to, though. In these flower shots, you can start to see what kind of bokeh that we're working with. I dig it, but it isn't anything crazy. This equates to roughly a 28mm lens, which feels pretty natural to walk around with. This structure has always enticed me, so I took a few photos here before changing lenses. I always wonder if one day I'll walk down the street and it'll be gone. I dig how these lenses render colors in general, especially when shooting into the shadows. It feels very classic. This one is by far the smallest lens that I've ever used, and I kept having to make sure my finger wasn't in the frame. There might be a vignette on some of these shots, but it isn't as noticeable to me as it is on the 18mm. This one equates to roughly a 35mm, which I think is a great walk-around focal length. I accidentally hit hyperlapse mode on the GoPro for this part. Whoops. I liked using this one a little more than the 18mm, but I found them to be pretty comparable. Initially, I struggled with the 50mm lens because of how tight it is. It's roughly a 75mm lens, which isn't great for walking around the city. There's no vignetting, and I think it might be the all-around sharpest lens of the bunch, at least by my eye. Surprisingly, I got used to it pretty quickly and got some of my favorite shots with this lens. I think that this would be a fun lens to shoot portraits with. After enjoying the 50mm so much, I want to try and purchase the 70mm lens from this set, but it's gone up in price recently, so I might have to wait it out. If you had to rank their optics, I think the 50mm is the best lens I shot today. However, they all have their quirks, which is fun. If you made it this far, I would really appreciate it if you threw a like on this video, subscribed to the channel, and dropped a comment down below. Until next time, happy shooting.